Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill. Joining me today are Graham Noble, Dave Patterson, John Clark, and Michelle White. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Greenland, an island whose largest private industry is fishing. But Greenland is endowed with both fossil fuels and critical raw materials. It possesses at least 25 of the 34 raw minerals considered critical by the European Union. But is that why Trump keeps talking about the icy nation? It might be why the EU seems to be flexing their combined muscle, or not. I mean, let's talk to the knowers of all things. I'm going to start with Michelle. Yeah, you're a knower of all things, Michelle.
Mining
and minerals. What is the export status on such precious commodities?
Well, they're not sending any rare earth minerals out because they're not pulling them out of the ground. But the minerals that they are pulling up, mining are going to mainly Denmark. We get some Canada, Iceland, the Netherlands, but mainly Denmark. And of course, Alaska has the same rare earth elements, and Trump has talked about getting them from there. But they're number 8 in the world. We're number 7 in rare earth elements. But there's a lot of obstacles to anyone getting them. First of all, it's their climate, the harsh Arctic environment. They don't have infrastructure. It's incredibly expensive to pull that out of the ground. They have a complex geology. They have environmental concerns because there are other chemicals and uranium that coexist that open a whole world. It's not my forte, but a whole world of problems there. And they have the limited workforce on it. They only have 57,000 people on that big island, and how many of them would be trained in that kind of work? But there's also some opposition. So would pick any one of those, and it's going to cause a lot of headache in trying to negotiate with Greenland over rare earths. But Europe is having a fit over it, of course. But I think privately, they're probably breathing a sigh of relief because they're sending their own soldiers over there for recon to make sure that China and Russia don't take it over. So I don't think the conversations are the same in private as they are publicly. We'll just have to wait and see.
Michelle kind of touched on this, David, but is Trump playing with fire? I mean, but, on the other hand, who the heck is going to tell the guy he can't or even try to stop him if he pursues Greenland?
Well, I think the short answer is no one. He's going to, seek his own counsel on these things. And as Michelle mentioned, he has backed off on taking Greenland by force. But President Trump sees a day when Greenland will be a prize that Russia and China want in their orbit. And he's thinking ahead. He sees taking control of Greenland as, and it is a strategic preemption of a bigger and future problem. And he's thinking ahead. I mean, he makes the point, that had Obama, had a mind about him, he would have put troops in Crimea, and that would have probably stopped Russia from coming over when everybody knew this was going to happen. And so I think that Trump believes this very same thing about Greenland. And he believes also in the event of an attempt by Russia and China to establish a presence in Greenland, neither NATO or the rest of Europe would have the will or military might to do anything about it. And that's the problem for him. And as I've mentioned, Secretary Bessent made the point that the United States does not outsource its national security. Greenland is a bulwark for the U.S. against Russia and Chinese aggression, and particularly in the Arctic. And so let's face it, there may not be warships, but China believes that every ship it has is a warship, and there have been numerous research vessels in and around Greenland. So I think that President Trump has the straight of it here. And however we can use Greenland to our advantage to thwart Russia and China is a good thing.
I was watching, I don't even know what I was watching, but it was, popped up on my news feed, and it's all of these Greenlanders freezing their nubs off, protesting in the streets. But I'm trying to figure out what the heck are they protesting? John Clark, do you know?
I don't know. I think they've been paid by Soros in blubber. Yeah. So, well, if you look at the demographics, so really,
I know why they don't want to be bought by us or me.
Well, I want to point our viewers to, if they haven't seen it, to Dave Patterson's excellent survey of this from a military defense and national security perspective in Liberty Nation on January 21st. And the precious metals, the rare earth metals, the two have an interface in geopolitics. But this really, I don't think, is about seizing treasure. That's the narrative of the socialists. And they're also naive if they don't understand that China has been, through its Belt and Road initiatives, buying up the world's natural resources. It's a soft war, right? So likewise, Trump, if we bought out Greenland, it's like the Louisiana Purchase for today. And I read an interesting Substack that dovetailed with Dave's point, which is it was about how if you played Risk, this was a board game that was very popular back in my day, and you were America, Greenland was an essential asset. If you had Greenland, then that was about a third of your defense, and you could focus on conquering the world. And my point here isn't that Trump wants Greenland to conquer the world. It is imperative for us for a national security, asset, and that we can get without invasion or colonizing. We can reward the people there. We can do it through soft diplomacy. But increasingly, part of the backdrop of this is we can't trust NATO. NATO expects us to foot all the bill for their defenses while they clamor for war, and they're not going to protect our flank. And so, as Dave points out in his article, we perhaps need to have a foothold there to have our missile defense systems up so that we can actually protect ourselves from a China-Russia collusion in the Arctic, or alliance, let's call it, not a collusion. And so I think that's where the real geopolitical action is, and notwithstanding media efforts to make it about, rare earth metals. But those were naive as to history and as to the present state of the world if we don't look at the fact that raw materials and assets are important for an economy and to prevent war in the end as well, because stability is essential for world peace.
All right, Graham, you want to weigh in on this, because I don't even know which way you want to go. I'm completely, I'm not that great at geography, obviously, but we're looking at a massive ice sheet. 80% of that country is ice. So, I mean, is it just good for
ban ice? Ban ice.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Is it just good for taking over and using it against us militarily?
Well, I think, for a start, there is absolutely no downside to the United States gaining control of Greenland, whether it's as a kind of a protectorate or a territory, or I'm not so keen on the idea of it becoming a state. But I also agree with what Trump said. Michelle mentioned Davos, and for our viewers, we are actually recording on the day that Trump spoke to the World Economic Forum at Davos in Switzerland. And he actually said that it is important that the United States actually owns Greenland, owns it.
And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States.
And I think that is kind of important. I think, Greenland, look at where it's placed geographically. It's a great jumping off point for operations in the Arctic, and also therefore for thwarting Chinese and Russian interests in the Arctic Circle in general. Just about all of Greenland most of it is within the Arctic Circle. It's also really kind of, in the grand scheme of things, it's like a stone's throw from Northern Europe and from Northern Russia. And more importantly as well, if we have Greenland, then we have completely outflanked our most dangerous enemy, Canada. So I think it's good for that as well. You know, we could go in there and seize the maple syrup anytime we want if we've got Greenland.
Don't we have Vermont for that? Why do we even?
We do have Vermont. Vermont syrup is way better.
But,
Vermont is already communist, so we lost.
And Canada,
but no, it's great, and it's fun. There's nothing. I mean, the rare earth mineral thing, as Trump himself said actually at Davos, is that's not the rare earth minerals is not his number one reason for getting Greenland, and extracting rare earth minerals, as Michelle touched on. That is because, of course, Greenland isn't just a big chunk of ice; it's actually a big chunk of rock covered in ice. And there's lots of rare earth minerals there, but it's probably going to be, who knows, 30, 40 years probably before anybody is extracting rare earth minerals from Greenland. But purely from a military kind of strategic point of view, national security point of view, it's absolutely imperative. And I think Trump at Davos today made it very clear that essentially, come hell or high water, the US is going to get control of Greenland. Now, he kind of unequivocally ruled out military action, and I was very glad about that, because the moment anyone even brought up the suggestion of the US military like taking Greenland by force, I was horrified with that idea. So I'm glad that he basically like totally ruled that out today. But nevertheless, he still told those people over at the World Economic Forum that we are taking Greenland one way or the other. Without invasion, but in any other way he's going to do it. And I'll just throw in one very quick point, is that our Liberty Nation's editor-in-chief, Mark Angelides, wrote an article about the whole Greenland situation. I think it was maybe several weeks ago now. I can't remember the date of publishing, but it was a while ago now. And he, in that article, cited a poll. And okay, this poll was from a few years ago, granted, quite a while ago, actually. But they did a poll among Greenlanders, and the majority of them, and it was kind of a significant majority of Greenlanders, said that they would like independence from Denmark, just on the condition that it did not negatively affect that no longer being a part of Denmark would negatively affect their standard of living. And standard of living in Greenland is not exactly luxurious anyway. So the idea that Greenlanders are like, kind of somehow like zealously faithful to the Kingdom of Denmark is nonsense.
They were protesting, Graham. I saw it.
Greenland doesn't. The Greenlanders have no. I know, kind of in terms of their origin, Greenlanders are mostly
indigenous,
descendants. Well, they're indigenous, but those that descended from Europe came from mostly Denmark and I believe Norway. But they have no great loyalty to Denmark when it really comes down to it. And if they thought they could have just as good or better standard of living by being perhaps an independent nation, but a U.S. territory or a U.S. protectorate, then I think they'd be perfectly happy with that.
There are a lot of reasons why Trump might want to dominate the Arctic, mostly to gain relative power over Russia and China, as our panel of brilliancy has discussed today. Is it a real chance or posturing? The only real secret Trump has kept is the relocation in handcuffs of the former Venezuelan boogeyman, Nicolas Maduro. So stay tuned. We'll let you know when we know. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We are on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. And stop by to see our new aggregate polling operation, The Public Square. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today to get your fix of free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com.